the only one who lived. Why she stayed on the boat. 6 divers were supposed to go. 5 entered the cave. 1 stayed behind. And that one decision may have saved her life. At the time, it may not have looked heroic. It may not have looked dramatic. It may have looked cautious, awkward, maybe even rude. Everyone else was preparing. Gear was being checked. Regulators were ready. The water was waiting. A respected professor was there. A professional guide was there. Experienced divers were there. On paper, everything may have looked controlled. But one person did not follow. She stayed on the boat. And after the Maldives cave disaster, that decision became one of the most haunting parts of the entire story, because 5 divers entered an underwater cave and never came home. But the one who did not enter survived. So the question is not only what happened inside the cave, the question is what happened before the cave. What did she see? What did she feel? Was it fear? Was it instinct? Was it discomfort? Was it a warning sign no one else wanted to name? Or was it something even more important? A no-go boundary. That invisible line inside the human brain that says, not today, not this dive, not this depth, not this group, not this cave, not with this uncertainty. Today, we are not here to blame. We are not here to turn someone's private decision into entertainment. And we are not here to pretend we know every detail that only investigators, survivors, or families may know. This video is about the survival psychology behind saying no. Because sometimes the bravest decision does not happen at depth. It happens on the boat, before the first bubble rises, before the group descends, before the cave gets a vote. I'm Commander Puzzles. This channel is about survival at sea and the hard truth that rescue is never guaranteed. And today we are asking one of the hardest questions in any disaster. Why did one person stop when everyone else continued? The first trap was not the cave. The first trap may have been authority. When people talk about this tragedy, they often focus on the physical dangers. The depth, the gas, the silt, the cave passage, the possible dead end. And all of those matter. But before the physical trap, there may have been a psychological trap. The trap of expertise. When a group contains experienced people, a professor, a guide, or someone who seems confident, the human brain does something dangerous. It relaxes. It stops scanning as hard. It assumes someone else has already checked the risk. That is called authority bias. Authority bias means we are more likely to trust a decision when it comes from someone we see as knowledgeable, important, experienced, or confident. And in normal life, that can be useful. If a doctor says, take a medicine, we listen. If a pilot says the plane is safe, we board. If an instructor says this is the plan, students follow. Human society depends on trust, but survival situations twist that trust into danger. Because the ocean does not care who has the title. A cave does not care who has the certification. Depth does not care who is leading the group. Gas math does not care who sounds confident. That is the brutal equality of the sea. Everyone breathes from a tank. Everyone uses gas faster at depth. Everyone can become confused in silt. Everyone needs a way out. Authority can organize a safe dive. But authority cannot make an unsafe environment safe just by being present. And that is where the 6th diver becomes so important. If everyone around you seems confident, it becomes extremely hard to question the plan. You ask yourself, who am I to object? They know more than I do. They have done this before. They seem calm. The guide is going. The professor is going. The others are going. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I am just nervous. Maybe I will embarrass myself. Maybe I will ruin the dive. That is how authority bias silences the warning voice. The danger does not need to be hidden. It only needs to be surrounded by confidence. And confidence can be contagious. One person acts sure. Another person relaxes. The next person assumes the plan is safe. Before long, the entire group is moving in the same direction. Not necessarily because everyone independently decided it was safe, but because nobody wanted to be the first one to stop it. That is the terrifying way groups can accidentally talk themselves into danger, not with pressure, not with bullying, sometimes not even with words, just with motion. Everyone gets ready, everyone follows. everyone descends, and the person with doubt feels smaller and smaller. That may be why staying on the boat matters so much, because to stay behind, someone has to break the spell. Someone has to say, even silently, I know everyone else is going, but I am not. That is not weakness. That is survival. The second trap was groupthink. Groupthink happens when the desire to stay together becomes stronger than the desire to question the plan. Nobody wants conflict. Nobody wants to look scared. Nobody wants to be the difficult one. Nobody wants to be the reason the dive gets canceled. So people smooth over doubt. They keep concerns small. They tell themselves the experts know. They tell themselves the equipment is enough. They tell themselves the plan must make sense because everyone is still moving forward. This is where the extra tank becomes psychologically important. Many viewers have asked about the spare tank, the backup cylinder, or what some call the ghost tank. To a diver, extra air sounds like safety, and in the right plan, extra gas can absolutely be a lifesaver. But psychologically, extra equipment can create something dangerous. Risk offset. Risk offset means that when people feel more protected, they sometimes take more risk. A seatbelt can make someone drive faster. A helmet can make someone ride harder. A spare tank can make a dangerous dive feel more manageable. The equipment is real. The safety feeling is real. But the danger may still be there. An extra tank does not remove the cave. It does not remove the ceiling. It does not clear the silt. It does not mark the exit. It does not shrink the depth. It does not guarantee that 5 divers can share gas under stress. It does not turn a bad plan into a good one. And that may be the exact moment where the 6th diver's brain saw the situation differently. Maybe the group saw the extra tank as reassurance. Maybe she saw it as a warning. Because sometimes extra safety gear is not proof that a plan is safe. Sometimes it is proof that the plan already needs rescuing. That is a powerful distinction. If someone says, "Don't worry, we have a backup," you have to ask, why are we already depending on the backup? If someone says, "Don't worry, we have extra gas," you have to ask, why might the planned gas not be enough? If someone says, "Don't worry, we know the cave," you have to ask, what happens if visibility goes to 0? If someone says, "Don't worry, we will only go in briefly," you have to ask, what makes us turn around? Those questions can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort before the dive is a gift. Discomfort underwater is a crisis. This is why the no-go boundary matters. A no-go boundary is a decision you make before pressure takes over. It says, if this happens, I stop. If the depth changes, I stop. If the visibility looks wrong, I stop. If the plan is unclear, I stop. If the group is too large, I stop. If I do not know the exit plan, I stop. If I feel pushed, I stop. You do not wait until everyone is watching. You do not wait until you are underwater. You decide ahead of time. Because once the group starts moving, your brain changes. The cost of saying no gets higher. And that brings us to the third trap. The cost of quitting. From dry land, saying no seems easy. Just stay on the boat. Just don't dive. Just turn around. But anyone who has ever been in a group situation knows it is not that simple. Imagine the 6th diver. She may have traveled far. She may have paid for the trip. She may have looked forward to the dive. She may have trusted the people around her. She may have already put on gear. She may have felt the eyes of the group. She may have heard the unspoken message, everyone else is doing it. This is where the sunk cost fallacy appears. The sunk cost fallacy is when we continue a bad decision because we have already invested time, money, effort, or pride. We think, I came all this way. I paid for this. I prepared for this. I do not want to waste the opportunity. I do not want to be the one who backs out. But the ocean does not refund bad decisions. The cave does not care how much the trip cost. The tank does not care how many miles someone flew. A dangerous dive does not become safer because you already put on the wetsuit. That is the hard truth. The safest moment to cancel is usually the most socially uncomfortable moment to cancel. Before the dive. On the boat. When everyone can see you. When nothing bad has happened yet. That is what makes the 6th diver's decision so powerful. She may have had to absorb the social cost before the physical danger became obvious. And social cost is real. People fear looking weak. They fear being judged. They fear losing status. They fear being labeled inexperienced. They fear disappointing the group. They fear hearing that little voice in their own head saying, "Maybe I'm overreacting." But survival often depends on being willing to look foolish early. Because looking foolish early is better than being proven right too late. This same pattern has appeared in other disasters. In the 1996 Everest disaster, climbers faced pressure, weather, exhaustion, and the powerful pull of continuing toward the summit after investing enormous time and money. Turnaround times mattered, but once people are close to the goal, turning back feels almost impossible. The mountain says, "You are almost there." The ocean says, "Just a little deeper." The cave says, "Just a little farther." The group says, "Everyone else is still going." And the ego says, "Do not quit now." Different environment, same human brain. That is why this story is bigger than diving. It is about the moment when the body senses danger before the group admits danger. And the hardest thing in the world is to trust that signal when everyone else is moving forward. The fourth trap is silence. It only takes one person to break groupthink. One voice, one question, one hand signal, one sentence. "I'm not comfortable." What is the turn pressure? Where is the line? What happens if visibility drops? Are we trained for this? Are we going deeper than planned? Why do we need the extra tank? Should we call the dive? Those questions can break the trance. They force the group to think again. They turn momentum back into decision-making. But if nobody says them, the group may continue as if agreement exists. That is the danger. Silence can look like consent. A quiet diver may be terrified. A quiet student may be unsure. A quiet person may be waiting for someone else to speak. But from the outside, everyone looks ready. That is why leaders in dangerous environments must invite refusal. A good leader does not just say, "Is everyone ready?" Because most people will nod. A good leader says, "Does anyone want to call this dive? Does anyone see a reason not to go? Does anyone feel uncertain?" No shame. We turn around if one person is not comfortable. That changes everything. It gives people permission to speak. It makes refusal part of the safety system. It turns saying no from embarrassment into procedure. And that may be the greatest lesson of the sixth diver. A survival culture is not built around pushing through doubt. It is built around respecting doubt. The fifth trap is the belief that fear is the enemy. Fear gets a bad reputation. People say, "Don't be afraid." But fear is not always weakness. Sometimes fear is data. Fear can be the brain noticing a mismatch. The plan does not feel right. The group seems too confident. The cave seems too uncertain. The depth seems too much. The backup plan seems vague. The exit plan is unclear. Fear is not always panic. Sometimes fear is the last honest witness in the room. The goal is not to obey every fear. The goal is to investigate it. Why do I feel wrong about this? What part of the plan is unclear? What would need to be true for me to feel safe? Can I explain the exit plan? Can I explain the gas plan? Can I explain the turnaround point? Can I explain what happens if visibility goes to zero? If the answer is no, then fear may be doing its job. That is the survival brain trying to protect you. The sixth diver may not have had a perfect explanation. She may not have known the full chain that would unfold. She may not have predicted the exact disaster. But she did not need to predict the whole disaster. She only needed to recognize enough wrongness to stay out of it. That is important. You do not need to know exactly how a plan will fail to know that it has too many ways to fail. You do not need to prove danger beyond all doubt. You only need enough doubt to stop. That is a hard lesson in a world that rewards confidence. But the sea does not reward confidence. It rewards preparation. It rewards humility. It rewards limits. It rewards turning back. And sometimes it rewards the person who stays on the boat. So how do we train the survival brain? One method is called a pre-mortem. Before the dive, before the trip, before the risky decision, imagine that it already failed. Imagine the worst happened. Then ask, why did it fail? Not to be negative, not to ruin the mood, but to find the weak points while there is still time to fix them. If this dive failed, why? We went too deep. We lost visibility. We did not have a line. We trusted the wrong passage. We had too many divers. The extra tank was not enough. Someone panicked. Someone did not speak up. The group ignored the one person with doubts. Those answers become your no-go boundaries. If we cannot solve the visibility problem, we do not go. If we cannot explain the exit, we do not go. If we cannot explain the gas plan, we do not go. If one person is uncomfortable, we do not go. That is not fear. That is discipline. Another survival tool is the power of one. Before any risky activity, the group should agree. Any one person can stop the plan. No argument, no shame, no pressure. One person can call it. That rule saves lives because it removes the social cost. The person saying no is not ruining the adventure. They are using the safety system. Imagine if every dangerous group decision started with that rule. If one person says no, we stop. If one person is unsure, we pause. If one person sees a red flag, we discuss it. That does not make people weak. It makes the group stronger. Because group courage without group honesty is just momentum, and momentum can carry people straight into disaster. We also need to talk about the emotional weight of survival. If someone stayed on the boat and others died, that person may carry questions forever. Why did I stay? Why did they go? Could I have stopped them? Should I have said more? Would they have listened? That kind of survivor's burden is heavy. So we should be careful with how we talk about the sixth diver. She does not owe the internet a performance. She does not owe strangers every detail. She does not need to become a symbol unless she chooses to. But the decision itself can still teach us. Because in survival, the person who lives is not always the strongest swimmer, not always the most experienced, not always the loudest. Sometimes the person who lives is the one who listens to discomfort before everyone else understands it. The one who refuses the momentum. The one who accepts embarrassment. The one who says,
I am not going.
That decision may look small from the outside, but it is enormous. Because it goes against authority. It goes against the group. It goes against sunk cost. It goes against ego. It goes against the fear of looking weak. And it chooses life over approval. That is why the sixth diver matters. Not because she knew everything. Not because she predicted every detail. Not because she was lucky in some simple way. But because she did something many people cannot do. She stopped before the danger became undeniable. That may be the most important survival skill of all. The Maldives cave disaster will continue to raise questions about the cave, about the dive plan, about the gas, about the equipment, about the guide, about the group, about the investigation. Those questions matter. But underneath all of them is one question every viewer can take into their own life. Where is your no-go boundary? Not just in diving, in driving, in boating, in hiking, in storms, in business, in relationships, in any situation where the group is moving and your instincts are saying stop. Do you know where your line is, and when the moment comes, will you honor it? Because the time to decide is not when everyone is looking at you. It is not when the music is loud. It is not when the boat is ready. It is not when the group is already committed. The time to decide is before. Before pressure. Before pride. Before panic. Before the cave. The sixth diver did not survive because she was the best at fighting the ocean. She survived because she never gave the ocean the chance. She stayed on the boat. And sometimes that is the bravest thing a person can do. One person stayed behind, and that choice may have looked small for a few minutes, until it became everything. I want to hear from you. Have you ever been the sixth diver? Have you ever walked away from something when everyone else said go? A dive, a storm, a road trip, a job, a deal, a relationship, a moment where your gut said no, and later you realized it may have saved you. Share it in the comments, because your story might help someone else trust their own warning signal. I'm Commander Puzzles. Survival at sea. Rescue is never guaranteed. And remember, the bravest thing you can do may be staying on the boat.